What's up, Comic Book Nation? BD here today. With Comic Book Now, we are going to do something a little bit different because all week long we've been talking about Doctor Strange, right? On the site, on our videos, everywhere it's been Doctor Strange. Well, last night I attended an advanced screening of the movie, and today we are going to do Comic Book Now, strictly reviewing Doctor Strange because it hits theaters as early as tomorrow night in the United States. And I'm not going to do this alone. I want your questions in the comment section. We're going to keep it spoiler free because there's no point spoiling the movie this close to release, or ever really. But we're going to take your questions. We're going to let you know whatever it is you want to know. And by we, I mean I am joined by Comicbook.com's Lucas Siegel. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. That was magic. That was pretty cool.
Magic.
All right, so Doctor Strange, first of all, let's just go with your first impression right off the bat. What did you think of this movie as a standalone Marvel superhero film?
I absolutely loved it. I think it was the most original and inventive Marvel movie that we've seen in a long time. Every time that they get to explore something brand new in the Marvel Universe, like they did with the cosmic corner of the world with Guardians of the Galaxy, and now the magical corner of the world, it gives them so much more freedom, it seems. And we really get to see that director's vision, and Scott Derrickson's vision for this was just awesome.
So, completely unique. But while it was a very self-contained movie, I mean, it definitely... You didn't have to see any other Marvel movie to understand this movie in its entirety. There was no way to enjoy it better because you had seen other Marvel movies. This one stood on its own, and it's been a while since we have felt that way about any Marvel movie. I mean, I really think since Iron Man or maybe Thor or the Phase 1 movies, even Ant-Man tied in the Falcon and the Avengers facilities, this, I mean, it had little Easter eggs, which kind of gave you the timeline of the movie, which has me even more confused. We'll talk about that. But it stood on its own completely. And at the same time, if you understand the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it completely, I mean, set the stage for Infinity War and the future of Doctor Strange. Setup. So while it was completely self-contained, it did a really brilliant job of setting up the future of the MCU.
Yeah, and that's something that Marvel Studios has really mastered, that anyone trying to build a cinematic universe has to look at this model and go, okay, what are they doing and how are they doing it so well? But again, Scott Derrickson definitely got to give his vision for this film while also then including all of those little callbacks and all of those little kind of pushes forward.
Right.
Obviously, you know, we broke the news on Comicbook.com from our set visit that an Infinity Stone is in this film, and that probably has something to do with that future.
I think Thanos has his eyes on that thing. But speaking of how unique this movie was, it was also, I think, by far the darkest Marvel film of any so far. I don't think, maybe Iron Man 3, maybe you could compare it, but this was dark. It dealt with some really dark issues. It pushed the characters to really dark places. Yeah. And while it still had that sense of levity and humor that every Marvel movie is always going to, it still felt like it was darker and grittier than anything else we've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In my opinion, I stand by that.
You know, when I mentioned that it was unique and inventive, it was unique and inventive in its visuals and things like that, obviously.
Yeah.
But I agree, it's also unique and inventive in the way that it looks at the world. This movie, Doctor Strange, actually takes a different look at the world and brings the people into the conversation all of the time. And they talk about death, and they talk about darkness, and they talk about the way that the world interacts with each other, both on kind of a spiritual level and a physical level. And that is all extremely interesting to me, and I like the way that they explored it.
Right. I'm looking at the comment section right now.
Yeah.
If you guys have questions, drop them in. We're not going to get into spoilers, but if you want some opinionated stuff, I mean, there's mild spoilers that I'm going to address, like that time frame. But Jonathan Schneider wants to know 3D or not 3D. Absolutely.
3D IMAX. 3D IMAX.
I'm not usually one to say 3D. I usually, not only because I don't feel like spending the extra money, to be honest, but I don't enjoy 3D movies. I don't like wearing the glasses and trying to see it in that. I think a 2D movie's fine, but this is something it's different from any movie before it.
Absolutely.
It's like watching Inception through a kaleidoscope.
Basically pretend that there is no 2D option. 3D IMAX is the way to see this film. And over an hour of the movie was actually shot on IMAX cameras. So it'll fill that full gigantic screen for over half the movie.
Right. Wim wants to know how long was the movie? I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head?
An hour and 55 minutes.
Yeah, it was just under 2 hours.
Just under 2 hours.
And he's asking about post-credit scenes. Yes, there were 2.
2 of them.
And not only, I'm not going to say what they were, but they're definitely setting the stage for more Doctor Strange and more Avengers.
Yeah. So I think we can tease that the mid-credit scene ties directly into a future other Avengers MCU movie.
Right.
And the post-credit scene gives you an idea of where a Doctor Strange 2 could be going. So definitely stick around. They're both really great scenes too. That mid-credit scene had the whole theater laughing.
Oh
quite
yeah, it
a
was
bit.
great, and it was just exciting. I don't want to say anything.
It's always
it was
exciting
very
to see another
another
MCU character show.
Yeah. We have comments asking us about cameos. That's kind of that. Yeah.
So there's
We'll leave
that
it
cameo. There's a Stan Lee cameo. And then there's some. Take a good look at the skyline anytime you see New York in this movie, because there's
and that's that actually.
there's a couple of
I don't
them.
think that's one of them I want to address. I don't think this is a spoiler. That Avengers Tower. He's in
Yes.
New York. Avengers Tower exists, which is interesting because Scott Derrickson said that this movie there's a reference when Strange has his accident. To a person before the accident, he's on the phone, and someone says that there's a 35-year-old male with back injuries that he needs surgery
From
and it's an
experimental
offer.
armor.
From experimental armor, right? So it sounded like this must have been a Civil War reference to Rhodes. Spoiler alert. But Scott Derrickson said it's Iron Man 2.
It's not.
Of
Well,
course.
he specifically said it's not a Civil War reference to Rhodes. Went back and looked at the actual Reddit post. He doesn't directly say it's Iron Man 2, but he implied that it was something about the competing armors that Hammer Tech was trying to make.
But
so it's kind of up in the air as to exactly how that plays into it.
It's definitely not Iron Man 2 because not only did Stark Tower didn't even exist during Iron Man 2, and it had to get destroyed and rebuilt as Avengers Tower by the time this movie happened.
Yep. So it
what
starts
else do we have
post-Avengers.
Are the post-credit scenes better than the Deadpool ones? Deadpool's was very unique. These are more of a setup. They're more serious, I think.
They're Marvel post-credit scenes. If you enjoy the post-credit scenes in, say, the Avengers movies, the Captain America movies, stuff like that, you'll quite enjoy these.
How did this movie address magic? Asks John Wayne IV, actually.
So I don't want to spoil the line or the explanation completely, but it does tie into the way that Thor first explained magic. So when he talked about magic and science kind of being close cousins, they did not throw that away, and that gets used in a similar fashion.
Right.
The big thing to take away here is that the magic that they're using, the spells they're using, they're pulling from other dimensions. So that's how they introduce the Marvel multiverse, is the idea that they're pulling the magic from these other universes.
All right, so I have 2 last things I want to address. One, someone asked, do we think there was too much CGI? I thought the CGI looked fantastic.
It was.
The whole movie is basically CGI.
It was like reading. It was like reading a Ditko comic on an acid trip.
Yeah, I mean,
in a beautiful way.
It was the magic looked amazing. The scenes where the streets are bending, the buildings are bending, and they're traveling to different dimensions. And there's a specific fight scene at the Sanctum with you know what I'm talking about, the windows there. I'm not going to say anything.
Yes.
But I thought that was just brilliant. It's not only the CGI.
And the cloak of levitation.
I think it wasn't the CGI that was most impressive. I think it was the imagination that went into creating that CGI.
Yeah.
It was where they came up with how somebody could wrap their brain around creating these sequences, explaining them to the people who created them visually, and then putting them on the screen. I think that was what was most impressive.
Absolutely.
And finally, Wim wants us to reveal where we rank this among other MCU movies. It's not. I'm going to be honest. It's not in my top 5. I thought it was a great movie, but I don't think it was better than Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America: Civil War, Iron Man 1, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, or The Avengers.
Okay.
I can't put it above any of those.
I will say it's definitely in my top 5, and I would put it in the conversation with my other 2 that are Guardians and Winter Soldier.
I just don't know how I could.
I don't know, Wim.
Guardians of the Galaxy had such an effect on me when I walked out of the theater. I was just, this is the best thing ever.
Wim, please let us know what you think when you see it this weekend.
Let us know what you think in the comment section after you see it. If you've already seen it somehow, if you're overseas, or if you've been to an advanced screening, let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much. If you want to talk more, I am at Brandon Davis BD on Twitter, at Lucas Siegel right here. Make sure you're following at Comic Book and at Comic Book Now on Instagram for all your news. We'll be dissecting this movie all weekend long.
Oh, yeah.
See you later, guys.